What's up, everybody? I hope you've been enjoying the content of late so far, or the content in general that I've been putting out, and hopefully you have. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. It's good to have you with us today. This one is a unique one because I've mixed in a couple of different kinds of content here. I've mixed in some on-location video shooting from my jet ski, recording Rhonda on her as she's doing tricks and kiteboarding out on the water. So it's pretty interesting. It's kind of cool. You can catch that on my YouTube channel because you can't really. I've cut out all the music, everything else from this recording for the audio only. But if you want to see the video of that, go to the description and it'll tell you, I think it's 1807 in the video, and just fast forward to that and you can watch the video of her on the water. She's actually really good. What else do I got there? Let's see. If you're enjoying the content, do me a favor, subscribe, rate, review, anything that you can do. Share the content with your friends, family, social media, wherever. If you find this content interesting and you think it's helpful, do me a favor and share some of the value that you've gotten out of it back to me, either in sharing it, or you can go to my link tree, which is also in the description. And if you want to help support the show monetarily, that would be amazing. I could definitely use the help. I've been paying for this thing for 3 years, so I'm always looking for, a way to help, offset some of these costs. So that would be greatly appreciated. Other than that, I mean, we've got a lot of content to come, man. I'm continuously recording, and I still have all of this other older content, which this is one of them that I've put together, and I still keep dipping into because some of this content is evergreen, so it doesn't matter if I did it 2 years ago or yesterday. It's still relevant, and it's still got value to it. So if you've been following along with me still, I know that I've got I don't know. I mean, I've got a following through the podcast itself, through the different platforms like Spotify and such, Apple, iTunes. And so if you're still rocking with me, right on, man. Appreciate it. And definitely more to come. Until next time, keep it 100, stay true to yourself. Everything else is just noise. And let's get to the show.
Sean Dustin spent time in federal and state prison for drug trafficking and fraud. Upon release in 2006, he had nothing but the clothes on his back, a bag of mail, and legal paperwork. In 2010, he kicked a long-time methamphetamine habit and started the long climb back up the ladder of life. This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast. If you want transparency and authenticity, you're in the right place. This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast, and this is Sean Dustin.
Okay, this is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast, and I'm your host, Sean Dustin. Today I am talking to, and I have a very special guest, Rhonda Reyna. Rhonda is a very, very, very talented female kiteboarder, and you're competitive as well, aren't you?
Yeah, when there's some local competitions, I like to participate.
Okay, cool. And Rhonda is a ambassador for Core Kites, and how I know Rhonda, I met her when I was down the street at a place called Sherman Island, or Sherman Island, sort of like public area, beach, launch, all of that. And I went down there because I live here, and I'm constantly seeing people going by, and kiters and everything else when I go down there to take my dog to the beach. So I thought, since I'm a content creator, what a better idea to interview one of these people down there that are in this sport And it is a sport that I've wanted to get into. So, for me, whenever I have interest in something and I have the ability and, somebody else is willing, I'll ask them to come on my show. That way I can get information myself and then give it to everybody else. So, hi, Rhonda. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much. And thank you for having me on your show.
You're welcome. Like I said, we had met. I had talked to you. I hit you up right in the parking lot, and I think I helped you pull something off of your car. And I gave you my card, and I said, if you ever, were interested in doing this, let me know. We had talked back and forth quite a bit before this, and we saw each other down there. I mean, I would see you when I go down and do my thing, and sometimes we would meet each other. We'd either see each other on the water and say what's up, from a distance, or I'd catch you on the land, and then we were able to set this up. And I'd like to know all about kiting, how you got into it, what it's like, how difficult is it, what's the pathway to entry, all that stuff.
Fantastic. Well, I'm happy to share my thoughts and my experiences with you on that. I first saw kiteboarding in 2012 when I was on vacation in Boca Raton. And I have a background in water skiing and used to go to the lakes. And water skiing requires a boat, a flagger, and you. So it tends to be a little bit difficult. When I moved to the Bay Area, I no longer had access to a boat. I didn't know where to go. And so I didn't get to water ski for a lot of years. Fast forward to 2012, I'm on the beach in Boca Raton, and I see this guy going by attached to this kite with what looks like a wakeboard. And he's smiling at me, and I'm thinking, that is the coolest thing I have ever seen. I don't know what it is. And it stuck in my head. A couple years later, in 2014, I happened to be driving up the North Santa Cruz coast, and I saw these kite surfers again. And then a while later, I was going over the San Mateo Bridge and saw these kite surfers, and I just became obsessed. And I was like, I'm going to go down. I'm going to go, looked up, where do people go kite surfing? And I found one of the launches, and I started talking with the kite surfers. And at that time, I'd only seen men. Mm-hmm. And the conditions were pretty gnarly. Cold, windy, people in wetsuits. The wind can crank anywhere for a good wind, 25 to 35 miles an hour. So you're getting a face full of sand. Your eyes are squinting. And I just thought, these people are crazy. What is up with that? But I was very intrigued, and they would come off the water and be super stoky, and I would ask, like, well, what is this? I was like, you should try it, you'll love it. And I thought, oh yeah, okay. So I finally met a woman who did kite surfing, and she referred me to take lessons up at Sherman Island, which is where you and I met. Yeah. So, and I had also fortuitously met two professional female kite surfers on a beach one day when I was surfing. And I looked them up, and I thought, well, they're about my size. And so if they can do kite surfing, then this is something I could do. And one of them was Yannicka Staub, who was a professional kite surfer, and she competed around the world, and she was with her friend. And they told me, yeah, we just go around the world traveling and kite surfing. And that just kind of got stuck in my head as something that I really wanted to do. I did all the right things when I was growing up, checked off my list of go to high school, go to college, get a job, get married, have a baby. And by my mid-30s, I achieved everything and then got a little bit bored and didn't know what to do next. I'd always wanted to travel, but put everything on hold for motherhood and career, etc. So meeting these really free-spirited women opened me up, and I wanted to be a part of it, wanted to be like them. So, lessons. Kite surfing is challenging to learn whether you're male or female. You just gotta do the time. And professional lessons definitely are the way to go. I was fortunate that during that stage of my life, I'd been coming out of some pretty dark dark times, and I was really open to really getting into the sport and making it a priority. So I took lessons locally and traveled to Turks and Caicos to take my first water lessons. It's a lot easier in the Caribbean because you have shallow, warm blue water, so you don't have to wear a wetsuit.
That's nice.
It's the pain in the butt here. You're already uncomfortable, all packaged up like a freaking Michelin man. And then you get into the water, and the conditions here are gnarly to learn. Very intimidating for sure. I thought I was going to drown, and I thought, while I was taking these lessons, kite surfers are crazy.
Some of them are. I mean, there's been some times when I've been out there, and when I go out there, I want to be out there in the roughest condition because that's what works best for what I want to do on the water when I'm on a ski, right? And I don't have to wait for a boat, which, could be a long time in between, boats coming. So that's what works best for me. And it gets pretty hectic out there, especially if you get all the conditions, the wind's blowing the right direction, the currents go in the right direction. All of those conditions, play a part in that. So, I mean, what I've gathered, what I've watched from being down there, and the people that I've tried to talk to, friends that I've made through hanging out down there. It's a cool bunch of people. It reminds me of like the Grateful Dead, but you're following the wind instead.
I'm not a Grateful Dead fan, so I don't understand or relate to the analogy. But yes, we're definitely addicts, wind addicts.
Mm-hmm.
Super stokey. It's just such an incredibly fun sport and so satisfying. And meeting the challenges of strong wind, waves, swell, you never know what's going to happen. It just really brings someone to life. And we experience that. And then it's a team sport because we have to look out for each other. You require somebody to launch and land you and kind of keep your eyes out. It takes a lot of mentoring to learn how to do it. So I was very fortunate that there's a lot of places locally to go kiting, and I met people at every beach who helped guide me and teach me the ropes of how to do it safely and what to do when you encounter mishaps, because it's a lot of problem solving. And I think a lot of people who are attracted to this sport, like myself, are very analytical and technical because we have to learn about our kites. You're a sailor and a pilot at the same time and an athlete, so you're multitasking several disciplines all at once for a full, fun adrenaline rush.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, and the people that I see down there, it's a wide spectrum of people that are in the sport. But what I meant by like the dead, so there's people that would follow the Grateful Dead, right? And they're like nomads. They lived out of their vans and they sold like, trinkets or whatever along the way at the shows to sort of make their money and survive, right? While following this group, band, that they loved so much. And this reminds me, because it's very similar, except you're not selling trinkets. Most people are remote workers that are living and working out of their vans and just, enjoying that sport and just following the wind where it goes. I mean, you have my buddy Josh goes down to, I think it's Baja. Is that where it is where they all go for the winter? So he goes down there all the time, and it's just like, dude, that's a cool life. Who wouldn't want to go hang out down in Baja, California and ride the wind down there for, a season and then come back up here? I think Nat does that, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I've taken to that as well. I've gone around the world following it through the seasons. So it's shut off here for now, and I'm really thirsty to go to the southern hemisphere and start chasing some wind.
Yeah. So how high have you actually gotten I mean, I have some footage, and for everybody who's watching out there, we're going to actually watch Rhonda in action and be able to see what she can do, and she's going to walk us through. If it works out the way that I want it to, hopefully she'll walk us through what she's doing and kind of like what's going through your head, when to pull, when to, how do you know? You know what I mean? I know it. You probably feel it. It's you feel like you're like kind of you're attached to it, and it's almost like you're at one with the wind. And so I would imagine, like anything else, if you have it attached to you, any sort of movement or pull, you're going to feel that and know to. Oh, there we go. But that's just speculation. I would really like to know from you.
Okay, so when you said how high do I go, you're referring to the big air jumping. Mm-hmm. And a lot of us do like to see how high we can get our kites up into the air. There's an international competition. We're using a device called the WOO, W-O-O, that measures our jump height. So we can compete locally at our beach, at the country level, and around the world to see how we're performing. It gives us a lot of motivation. As well as doing freestyle tricks. You could be on something that's a kiteboard that looks like a wakeboard. You can be on a surfboard. I've recently done strapless and added to that. You can be on a foil board, all sorts of things to do. But I really like to jump big. What's going through my head is, can I be brave enough to really send this kite super fast? And can I hold the bar in and try to get as high as I can go? Okay. I've had 3 different PRs this year so far. Last week, I just hit 27.8 feet, which is a respectable jump height. Pretty fun to do.
Yeah. What's the highest that you've gotten, do you think, out at Sherman? Because I know it blows pretty hard out there, but I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, is there a point that it can get out there to where you're like, and no, we need to wait a little bit, or does that just depend on your skill level? Like,
yes, it's all kiter skill dependent. And I have a kite. I have 6 kite sizes. So you rig the appropriate kite size. And so far, I've gone out in everything. My smallest kite being a 5-meter kite, and that's wind in the 40s. And there was a day mid-time this year that it was pretty strong, and I couldn't even hold down my 7-meter, and I came in with big eyes and screaming for help, and 2 girls held me down, and then I went and rigged my 5-meter and was really shocked at how much lift I had on the 5-meter, because usually for jumping it's not sufficient, but the wind was so strong that day. It was an incredible sensation. To be on a small kite and feeling that much intensity locally. Yeah,
I would imagine. I just think it's just such a cool thing to just be able to watch, everybody out there. And I think at the peak time, there have been times when I've been out there, and you could clearly see there's probably about 50 kites, flowing around and about. And as people are coming off, there's more people going in. I mean, so it's like a steady flow of people coming off, going in. And, it's really cool to watch, especially when I put my drone out there and was doing drone footage of a lot of that. And, remember, Josh, he's the one that does the, DJ, and he's always playing the music out there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I did a lot of footage on him with the GoPro and with drone. The hard thing about a drone is that unless you've got, that's like a serious production, because it's an expensive piece of equipment to have fall in the water and lose, and it's also. It's really tough because, you're going to a spot where it's like everybody is like, this is what we're here to do, So I think if I'm going to do it, I think I'm going to have to go like downwind. That way I can have somebody on the, I can be on the beach. Somebody can be, out on the ski, and the drone can be above them. That way the kiter knows where the drone is at all times. Wherever that ski is going to be, the drone's going to be right above it. trying to do that in the midst of everybody, they don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? It's too hard to communicate with everybody. Like, hey, this is what's going on. I'm going to shut down the beach or your directional, ride so I can do what I want to do. So I don't think that it's going to work out that way.
Yeah, when people are doing videos, they're usually planning a quiet time of the day to set it up in some place that is not that busy.
Yeah, and it's actually, for me, it's cool because I do have the ability to go downwind. I took Josh down there. Actually, he wanted to try one of those hand foil. Is that what that is? The hand.
They call it the wing. Yeah, wing foil.
Yeah, it's a wing foil, and so he wanted to try one of those, and he wanted to get down there. And I was going to try to take him on my ski, but he rides a hydrofoil, right? That's what it's called. Mm-hmm. And I was like, dude, there's no way you're going to be able to carry that thing and me take you there. That's a lot of stuff. And you're whatever. I'm like, nah, let's, how are we going to do this? And so I towed him on his hydrofoil the whole way, all the way down to where Nat usually does his deal. So
wow.
it was pretty cool. I was like, wow, I wish I could we switch? All right, so let's watch this video real quick. I'm going to share screen and okay, so this is going to be the part where I show her what what I'd filmed her on the water, and then she was kind of running through. I was gonna have her run us through what she was doing during the video, but that kind of got messed up. So if you want to see that video, go to my YouTube channel, the YouTube link that's in this description, and you'll be able to go to 1804 or 1807 in that video, and that will show that part right here. So I'm going to cut out that and just pick up from the other side of the conversation here. So that's all. So as you rewatch that, what do you kind of walk me through that? Because you did a couple of different things there. You did some backside tail grabs. You did a couple. I don't know if that's what the technical term for it is. I'm thinking like as if I was watching a snowboarder, I guess.
Yeah. So I did. I went toe side. I saw myself rotate to toe side, where instead of having pressure on my heels, I rotate and put pressure on my toes. You did see that tail grab, but mostly that day that you were watching me, I was trying to get air and I was working on my form. As I jumped to the right, so that's the side that I'm setting up to get air. And then when I was going port, which is left, you see my arms sticking out, and I'm balancing myself because there's quite a bit of wind, and I want to keep going upwind. So you see me stick my arm out for balance. And then sometimes in between, I'm just meditating. I'm just I'm just really enjoying it, carving on the waves and the chop and stuff like that. So many different things you can do with your board and just get into the zone of kiting. And we mix things up depending on, we feel the wind. Like when you're going to jump, you're feeling that there's pressure in your kite, and it's the right sensation of pressure to throw a jump. And then I'm looking for some chops. So I like to find a pocket that I can then ramp up into and send the kite up and coordinate those efforts. Yeah.
I mean, it really is cool to watch. I feel really fortunate. I mean, one, to be in California, regardless of, all the politics and everything else of California. But I mean, it is a beautiful place, and the weather that we have here is amazing most of the time. And there's so many different things that you can do water wise. We have two rivers up in Sacramento. You got, the rivers that come from here and go up there. You've got the bay, you've got all of this stuff. And, so if a person is wanting to start out, right, kind of walk them through what they would need, the costs that are associated with it, because it's not a cheap sport. Even when you go the used route, it is not cheap by any means.
No, yeah, oh gosh, price wise, I'm a little bit a long time from that. But your starter lesson, which is where you're going to learn how to fly a trainer kite, is usually, I think they're about $50 for an hour and a half. And So you basically get all the basics of wind direction, how it works, practice on a trainer kite. The instructor will go through and teach you all the basics, setup of the kite, how to pack it away, the wind window, and then you can purchase your kite anywhere from, I think, $199 for a small kite, maybe to close to $300. That is a very useful piece of equipment. I still have my trainer kite because it's something you can always go back to and practice kite loops and things and just have fun on it too. I've also used it with a skateboard, so you can kite skate. And I've done it with floaties with my daughter this summer too, just goofing off.
Yeah.
Once you've mastered learning how to fly the kite, usually it's recommended to play with that for about 20 hours. That's what I did. I really do think it's important because being able to control the kite is super important. When you get on a full-size kite, they're powerful. They've got 80 feet lines, anywhere from 20 to 24 meters in length. And these are meant to withstand 500 pounds of pressure. So they can cut through a human being. You just want to be really safe and secure with that and not put anybody at risk. So that's why spending a lot of time on your kite flying skills is the route to go. Next, you get your water lesson. And that can be anywhere from 3 hours to 5 hours. And you're going to start with body dragging and just managing your kite and feeling what that's like and dragging through the water. And you're going to learn to drag upwind because we fall off our boards. So we need to be able to go upwind to retrieve our board and get back on and kite. Again, it was recommended to me the more hours I would spend body dragging and being proficient on that, the next phase of putting the board on my feet and being really proficient would be good. Everybody's different. There's some guys are like, I just need 3 hours of lessons. I'm going to get out there. Yes, you can get up on the board, but there's a lot of safety protocols to know. There's a lot of right-of-way rules to know. There's a lot of etiquette. Every beach is different. So the more lessons you take with a professional instructor, the more opportunity you're going to have to encounter things that happen. Light wind, your kite goes down. How do you relaunch it? Super high wind, what's an appropriate kite? Any kind of kite mare can happen. I took 16 professional lessons before I went out, and I did it all over the bay because I wanted to be safe and I wanted to have all my mishaps with guided instruction. And instructors are wearing radio walkie-talkie, and we're wearing a helmet so we can talk to them and it's direct instruction and feedback. Lessons can range from about $125 an hour. If you travel, like I said, I went to Turks and Caicos and did some lesson packages down there. Those fees for a few days can be up to $1,000, but well worth it because this is your life you've got in your hands and you're also responsible for other people around you. I'm an extreme sport instructor myself. I come from the horseback riding world. So I taught fox hunting and I did eventing and I taught horseback riding lessons. And the more lessons you take, the more guided instruction, the faster your progression because you're not developing bad habits. Yeah. Lately this season, because of COVID-19, unfortunately, we've seen a lot of people showing up to the beach who saw a YouTube video and they've tried to self-teach, and it's had some really bad accidents and consequences. So from a safety perspective, that is not advisable. And even the product literature on the kites has a tag that says, get some professional instruction, and by purchasing this item, you've agreed to be bound by the terms that you understand how to safely use the equipment. So that's just something I want to put out there that's really important for anyone listening. And kite costs do vary. I believe you get what you pay for. I fly a brand called Core Kites, and the reason why I selected that is I had the opportunity to be on the Kiteboarder magazine test ride team for 2 years, and I got to fly all the kites on the market. And for the conditions that I kite in, which is very gusty, 10-mile-an-hour spreads, and my own personal style, The Kite was very user-friendly. I knew I wasn't going to outgrow it. I fly the XR, and so that is just as good for a beginner as someone who's advanced. And currently the XR6 is the leading big air jumping kite. The top 5 jumpers in the world are on those XRs. So I knew from a purchase point of view, it was a good investment, that I wasn't going to outgrow. I wasn't going to buy a beginner kite, get bored, change my style, then have to get a new kite. So to me, the economics of it made a lot of sense. That being said, there's a lot of great kites and a lot of great boards, and it's just personal preference. Graphics, style of riding, wave kites, free ride kites, there's wake style, and the kites are designed to do different things, and the boards have different aspects as well.
Yeah, and to your point about the safety aspect of it, I'm not sure if Sherman is actually a good place for people to, like, if you were even, I wouldn't suggest trying that at all. I mean, you could possibly do a trainer kite. Like I got that suggested to me. Someone said, well, go get a trainer kite first. You know what I mean? Like the small one that you'll see them out in that field just kind of messing around with, like you were talking about, that only has 2 lines, not the, not the 4. That you could probably, but I mean, that's about the limit of what you can do by yourself. The rest is like, you can't just go out there and think you're going to do it. You can't watch a YouTube because you don't know how that feels, and you need somebody who can articulate to you as they're teaching you how that feels and the nuances of what it is you're actually doing, right?
Yeah, Sherman Island, the launch is not a beginner kite spot. Once you're on the water, we have some great conditions, but getting out of the launch is pretty gnarly. A friend of mine referred to it as a class 4 launch. So you've got to know what you're doing, and there's a flow of traffic that we have. That being said, you can take lessons and go up on a boat up the river where it's safe and where you're out of the traffic and where you're with an instructor who can help get you to the water. There's a nice big sandy beach is the more user-friendly spot for someone to learn. Yeah.
And there are plenty of those upwind. So yeah. Well, you know what? I really appreciate you taking the time and being able to make this happen. I definitely liked, I liked everything about what I have done. I've never tried to do this yet. I had Josh and it was you, and I have way more footage of him, and it was like, oh my God, it's going to take forever to edit all that stuff down. So I was like, all right, well, let's roll with this one first and see how it works and see how, my audience takes to it. 'Cause I think it was pretty cool putting it together and getting the footage. I would like to be able to do that again with you at some point, and maybe try, getting a little bit closer, some different angles. You know what I mean? Maybe downwind further, you know what I mean? Not when it's in where we were, because it's really difficult, because I know sometimes the kiters get irritated that I'm there.
If it's a busy time of the day, sure. But there are certainly some better opportunities and locations to get some good footage of some kite surfing. Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, next time you're down here and the conditions are right, hit me up. I'm right down the street, and it takes me but like 20 minutes to be on the water if I need to be. Sure, sounds good. I'll probably be jumping higher and I'm learning more tricks, so that'll be really fun too.
Right on. Do you want to leave anything for anybody, or just want to, like, where they can find you, or just informational? Thank you. Have a good one.
Well, I appreciate you having me on this show, and it was a bit brief, and it's just want to share with everyone. It's a really fun, super stoky sport. I'm available on Facebook, pretty easy to find. I'm pretty well known because I am an ambassador for the kite company that I loved. I started painting my kites, and that's how I got known and was approached and asked to be an ambassador. So I'm a pretty friendly face in the community, and if you have any questions or help, I'm always happy to answer them and do what I can, or point you in a direction of some instruction or anything you may need to know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I looked at my thing. I thought it said 45, not 35. So yeah, it's definitely something that's really cool. And if this is something that you watch and you're into, find somebody or find a place that's in your area that you can go down and ask questions. You know, watch people that are doing it, because it's really, unless you do it that way, it's difficult to get in and actually like find people who are willing to talk to you about it. Because there are some, I have experienced some that were like, absolutely no way, they didn't want to have nothing to do with me. And as well, no, and I get it, because as the sport's growing, it's getting more crowded on these spaces that there's not very much room for. So there is that sort of thing, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, a little bit of protection of their local spot.
Yeah, you know, but that goes with everything, you know. And I think I think the way that the price point of entry, because I did look into it, and the price point of entry is about, even if you go used, you're looking at about $2,500 to $3,000. And there's not a lot of people out there that have an extra $3,000 to just, to throw on a hunch that I may or may not like it. You know what I mean? That's a big decision for a lot of people.
Yeah, most kiters say it's not something you try out. You've got to want to do it. You're committed already when you've made that decision. Yeah,
and so it's like, if you love the water, that would probably be something. Like, if you're not a water person, but you just think it looks cool and you want to do it, it's probably not going to be something that you're going to like. But if you're like somebody who loves to be around the water like I do, next year, for sure, I'm learning how to do it.
Nice.
All right, Rhonda. Well, thank you again. And anytime you want to come on and talk about any of the other things that you and I both share, feel free to hit me up, and we can make that happen.
Sounds good. Have a good day.
All right, you too. Bye.
You've been listening to the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast. Sean is a single dad, a union blue-collar guy, and he spent time in federal and state prison for drug trafficking and fraud. When he was released from prison in 2006, all he had was the clothes on his back, a bag of mail, and some paperwork. Since then, he's turned his life around and shares the struggles and successes on this podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we hope you were moved. To connect to the show, book a guest spot. For merch, Patreon, PayPal, and social media links, go to linktr.ee/nowhere to go but up.
On Instagram at Nowhere to Go But Up Now. On Twitter at But Up Now. On the YouTube channel at Nowhere to Go But Up Podcast.
See you next time.